Welcome to another edition of 12.5 Minutes. My name is Jared Kelly, and I'm with my friend and co-host Liz Whitehead.
Hi, Jared.
How are you, Liz?
I'm excellent. I'm excited for our conversation today.
So am I, actually. This is a great time to have a conversation about one of my favorite topics. That would be sweets.
Yeah,
So,
we're going to talk to Teresa Ging from Sugar Bliss. I met her, I think last year, but since then, I feel like I've seen her and her company everywhere, and I wanted to talk to her. Welcome,
Hi,
Teresa,
how are you?
because your company really aligns your values and impact. And so we wanted to talk to you about that.
Thank you for having me on today.
yes, this is a opportunity for us not only to learn a little bit about um, your history, but also about some of the growth that you've had with your company, and then as well the impacts that you've made with communities that you care about. So let's get started. Let me ask you, what would you say is the reason that you started Sugar Bliss?
Yeah, so that's a funny story. So I've had, I started Sugar Bliss in 2007, so we're approaching 18 years. And my background, I grew up in Texas, went to University of Chicago. I majored in economics and statistics. Thought I was going to be in the corporate world forever. Ended up working in finance at various investment banking, private equity, equity research firms, and did that for about 6 years. We've all had long days at work, and a friend was sifting powdered sugar to make cupcakes, and it looked therapeutic. So I decided to quit my job and move to Paris for a couple of months to go to pastry school. And when I came back to Chicago, decided to open a bakery. Not quickly, but about a year and a half later. So, did all the entrepreneur looking at brick and mortar spaces, developing recipes, and then opened the first brick and mortar store in downtown Chicago in January of 2009.
Wow, French pastry school must have been no joke.
It was a
My
lot of
mom,
fun.
yeah, my mom was a pastry chef and they do not mess around.
Lots of good stuff. Although I didn't have my experience like Emily in Paris, but it was a good time.
Yeah, it's also interesting that you started in 2007, right? Right before like the 2008 financial crisis.
Yes.
How did that affect your business?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people I've getting that question a lot. Because like, I never had a startup, I mean, business. It was just like we could only go up from here. So I literally started, I mean, there was no data points. And so I started January 5th, 2009. It's, the beginning of the year. Everyone's on a diet for like 3 weeks. It's the recession and we're in Chicago winter. So I was like, okay, everything else is gonna go, up from here. And so the good thing is that I had, kind of built the brand already, so that by the time I opened the brick and mortar store, we had already had a following. And so we would sell out every day. I mean, on Valentine's, which is like one of our busiest day of the year, that first Valentine, I think we like finished at noon and I didn't really understand like we should probably bake off more. So but yeah, it was a great, I mean, we had a lot of people that supported our brand, once we opened the brick and mortar store.
Give us an idea as you think about that brick and mortar situation, because most companies don't start with all that overhead, right? They'll start, catering or doing something smaller. But once you start with the brick and mortar, and then you think, you know, maybe a long term, like I want to go into, consumer, like I want to go into stores and go into retail, that environment. How did you look at your growth trajectory?
Yeah, so the good thing is like I always knew that even though I had a brick and mortar store, that I wanted to focus on corporate and catering because they order a lot and the higher dollar value. So that was always the core to our business, even though we had a brick and mortar store, which I think is unique because we are in downtown Chicago. And so that was kind of what my focus was, versus being a bakery in the neighborhood that you're looking for just a, walk-in traffic. So our average transaction is higher than probably the neighborhoods because we have that larger corporate order, you on average, customers come in our store and spend $35 in store and over $100 online. So it's a larger dollar transaction. But yeah, I mean, we've since launched a CPG brand into retailers like Walgreens, Macy's. We'll be launching a Kroger brand. And that really came from COVID. We lost our corporate catering business because everyone was working from home. And so, I'm in my store by myself, thinking about like, how do I get our products into retailers or drugstores or anywhere that the consumer is only going to. And so took our three most popular cookies and made them shelf stable. We had a major airline that was interested in our brand, and that kind of spurred everything. And then the WBDC has a program called Top Shelf that's sponsored by Walgreens. And again, I didn't have a product yet, but I was fortunate that 3 weeks into the cohort program, the buyer was interested in our brand and knows that cookies sell at Walgreens and asked us. And so we quickly developed, I literally had to, there's no book that says how to start a CPG brand. I mean, there probably is, but I just didn't read it. So I literally had to figure out like, oh, I need a UPC, like, should I get a family of UPC codes? And which has been great because like we add on so many things. And, what is, like Coman, what is all this like, food, you can't just sell it. You have to get certifications and stuff like that. So, so that, the brick and mortar store helped develop the CPG. Now at the CPG part, I'm going there trying to get our CPG and, concessions, higher education, like UIC had a bid and, then they want catering. So it's kind of funny that I went in there trying to pitch our CPG brand, but now I've gotten into Chicago Bears doing a signature bear claw cookie. McCormick Place, they want specialty niche desserts, like something with their logo on it, or like say it's a conference and they want their conference logos. UIC has catering. We also do the retail store. So I'm just kind of like, wow, there's like more opportunities. So every layer has developed more opportunities.
I love how you talk about them as opportunities because you're saying the financial crisis when you started, and then COVID actually helped you develop this new product. And so now we're at another unique moment. Some might call it another crisis. Um, I read about you saying, all right, there's some customers that we're not going to do business with. And Jared and I talk about this all the time. Like, how are you going to make that distinction? So how do you make that distinction? How did you decide to or not do business with certain companies?
Yeah. So, like as entrepreneurs, when we start off, we want every single customer because we got bills to pay, right? And as you get longer into your business and you start figuring out like not every customer is the customer you want. And, I've had to deal with that with the brick and mortar store. Like sometimes I'm like, we can't do what the customer wants and they're not going to be happy. So probably just, rather than deal with a headache later on, it's just like, we can't do it. So anyways, that's kind of been something that I've learned over the years. And with CPG, that's the same thing. It's like, it's as much as it's exciting to go into every single retailer, our cookie is more premium. We use sustainable packaging, so that's more expensive. We use premium ingredients. So it's not the 99 cents cookie. So it doesn't make sense to go into every single retailer, especially some that are like more discount. Nothing wrong with them. It's just that we're just not going to sell there, And so that was kind of one aspect of it. But as the whole change in now with the DEI, as I was, we got an opportunity, started in last fall talking to this retailer and, January rolled around, we're supposed to onboard and, we just kind of like not dilly dally, but there was something in like, I don't know, I call it the DEI gods. Anyways, they were saying, maybe you shouldn't do this one. And so I, thinking of our brand and, it was really important that, we're supporting like our cookies we have a social mission. Like we have a scholarship out there that helps more women and minority entrepreneurs get certified. And so we're trying to uplift that community. And if the retailers that we're selling to aren't also uplifting it, it kind of contradicts everything, right? And so, with this retailer and some of the other retailers out there that are either, saying, hey, we're not really focused on DEI or we're removing it, it's unfortunate. It's not just the supplier, it's also your consumers, and they have seen kind of a backlash on that. So, it was really important when I started thinking, I was like, you know what? This is the same thing I'm gonna have to approach just like this with my brick and mortar store with the retailers. Like there are some retailers we probably should not be in because they don't have the same motives as we do. And we're going to align with retailers that actually want to grow with the, DEI is not about race. It is about inclusion for anything, whether you're race, gender, if it's a mother that has a baby that needs, a room for lactation, like it's anything that helps someone better in the workplace, and so yeah, so it's something that, it wasn't actually very hard for me to decide. It was like, you know what? This is what I need to do, and I can sleep better at night.
That's great.
And that, you know what, you said something important. It's the longevity and the strength of your business gives you that opportunity to stand on your values, right?
Right,
Stand on,
right.
and I think that's important because it sounds like you've also been making commitments in communities that you care about. You mentioned the scholarships as an example, and giving back in areas. Um, what motivates, what's the motivation behind that in terms of saying, okay, we're going to be a social impact or a social enterprise in that particular lane where it's not just about the baked goods and
Mhm.
all of the different ingredients and all the careful thought processing that goes into it, but we're also caring about communities. So give us a
Yeah.
little bit of what your thought process is behind getting to this social enterprise side.
Well, two things. One is, when I was on my way to Paris, I fortunately met someone that had told me about the WBDC, which is the RPO chapter in Chicago. And so I, went to Paris, came back, and I looked it up, and I was like, great, this is an organization that's going to help me like open my business, and so, and that was kind of like one of the foundations of like, oh, there's an organization that's helping more women entrepreneurs, and again, this is 2007. Now it's like, 20 years later, it's like more of a big initiative. Let's support, it's not just let's support small and local business, it's let's support women, minority, LGBTQ businesses. So it's taken a whole different level. The other thing is from that WBDC moment or introduction, like 3 months into opening my brick and mortar store, I got invited to the White House, and it's like you're just trying to like sell cupcakes, like you don't even know, like, so I got invited to the White House, and it was President Obama forming the executive order for the Women Council of Girls, and it was to have more women in his cabinet, and that kind of planted the seed, and I was like, wow, like our president is really focusing on, you know, um, uplifting, women, minorities and stuff like that. And I think that was kind of like the spur of, this whole movement, you know what I mean? And so, now looking at 18 years in my business, I've grown it, we've had our ups and downs and whatever. And, hopefully one day I retire. And I want to have like a legacy of my business. And so that was really important that, you know, um, when people look at our, they see so many cookies out there, and what makes us different? I mean, I could say, we're kosher, we're premium ingredients, but no other big manufacturer is using sustainable packaging or caring really about our earth. And no really are, uplifting women and minority entrepreneurs. So I was like, that's what we need to do. We need to change who like this cookie, so hopefully it makes you happy when you eat it, but also like it's a social mission to help, and we've given out 25 scholarships so far for other women entrepreneurs to get certified because we think certification has been really important in helping us grow. And we appreciate those companies that are supporting and will continue to support no matter what the political climate is.
I love it. Yeah, this is exactly why I wanted to talk to you because it's what we've been talking about all this season on the show is how are people going to make it through this moment? And it's exactly what you said, by sticking to their values, that is the differentiator. So that's great.
And I also think that there's something unique in terms of value proposition, right? The value proposition that you have outlined has a through point that goes to the consumer, but also through the different types of business opportunities that you are able to create, whether you're corporations in their requests, but also in looking at people coming to the store, catering, like there's so many different alignments that seem to go very well. And when you mentioned some of the, the companies and the firms that are obviously supporting and making good decisions in terms of buying from you, I
Yeah.
think there's something there that also connects them, right, to feeling good about the collaboration. So it goes well beyond the product, is what I'm
Mhm.
saying.
Yes. Yes.
Values in ownership, values in leadership, but also values that the company brings collectively. So
Yep.
I love it. Well, this has been an excellent opportunity to learn more about you. I think that we should really get one more thing out of you,
Okay.
which is how do we get pastries and baked goods from you? Like,
Oh yeah, that's like yeah, so we're based in Chicago. We have a brick and mortar store in downtown at 122 South Wabash. That is at the Palmer House Hilton. So it's near the Millennium Park area. So that you can also order from our online sugarbliscakes.com. And then if you also can order on Macy's.com, we have gift packages, we ship nationwide. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can get Sugar Bliss sweets.
excellent. We will definitely take you up on that offer. Thank you, Teresa, for joining us for 12.5 minutes. This has been fantastic.
Thank
Uh,
you.
and we will talk to you again soon.
So I think what's interesting, I talk about this a lot, that when you talk about somebody's career history, when you look back, you can sort of see the straight line and the connections, but thinking that you're going to go from being like an economics major at the University of Chicago to owning a sustainable, impact-driven cookie company, sweets and pastries company, you don't always necessarily hear that. So I think that's why it's great to hear this kind of story. And I wanted to highlight the economics piece of it because that's what we're always talking about. That yes, it is a values-driven decision. And Teresa told us the inspiring story, like what really embedded that in our company was that trip to the White House. But there's also an economic differentiator. There's an economic reason to continue to stand on business when it comes to your values. So I really appreciate the way Teresa illustrated that.
Right. That connection to our national and global economics comes from a good place when you have leadership that supports and understands where small businesses drive the economy. And certainly the values that you and I talk about and we've shared with this particular community, I think uh, drives it drives how we move forward, right? And I think our decisions, not only as business owners but also as consumers, will dictate how things go in the near term and the future. So, been another great episode of 12.5 Minutes. My name is Jared Kelly. This is Liz Whitehead, and we are out of here.